Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our Siyyum for Tractate Sanhedrin. We're just gonna maybe wait just a minute for a couple more folks to drift in before we get started. But in the meantime, feel free to say hello. The chat is open. Let us know who we're gathered with here today. Hello from Charlottesville, Virginia, Delaware, Philadelphia, South Carolina, Czech Republic, St. Petersburg, Florida, Nashville. Welcome, everybody. It's so good to have you with us. Vermont. Welcome, Vermont. Um, I might be one of you soon, Vermonters. Welcome, everyone, for My Jewish Learning Siyyum on Tractate Sanhedrin. My name is Ben Harris. I'm the managing editor here, sitting in this afternoon for my colleague Rachel Scheinerman, that most of you are probably accustomed to seeing in this chair. She could not be here with us today, so I will do my best to fill in for her over the course of the hour as we mark the completion of our latest tractate in the Daf Yomi cycle. Before we get started today, just want to note that today is the fast of the firstborns. Normally we hold these siyumim on the final day of the tractate, which would have been yesterday. Today we actually began Masachet Makot, but we bumped it forward today because it is Tanit Bechorot, the fast of the firstborn, which normally would be observed on the eve of Passover, but this year that falls on Shabbat, because we don't fast on Shabbat, and we also don't fast on Erev Shabbat. We are observing that today. So for those of you who might be firstborns and might be fasting today, this is a workaround for you to participate in a siyum, as a way for you to be able to eat today. So hopefully for those of you, special welcome to those of you who might be in that situation today. The arc of these things, if you've joined us before, but I'll just remind you, we have an all-star panel that most of you are probably familiar with, who will share some of their reflections and teachings and things that they found interesting or troubling or challenging from this tractate. And we will go through, and then we will learn the last couple lines of the tractate together, and we will recite the Hadran, the special blessing that is recited at the completion of a section of Torah study, and we'll conclude with the Kaddish. As always, the chat is open, friends, so please let us know what you think. If you have questions or comments or reflections from your own study of Tractate Sanhedrin these last couple of months, please do feel free to share them. We're not going to have a formal Q&A session, so just drop them in the chat as they come to you, and we will try to surface some of those over the course of the hour. So please do participate. All right, so without further ado, I want to introduce our panel today. Most of them are going to be familiar to you, beginning in the top right of my screen. Maybe she is for you too. Rabbanit Dasi Fruchter. Say hello, Dasi.
Hi, everyone. Mazel tov.
Dasi is the founder and the spiritual leader of the South Philadelphia Shtibel, a vibrant, growing Orthodox community where groups of seekers deeply connected to one another across lines of difference are dedicated to Torah, mitzvot, and acts of chesed. She is also the host of her Daf Yomi podcast and a regular here in our Siyumim, and we're happy to have her back. Also with us today is Rabbi Asher Lopatin, the rabbi of Kehilat Eitz Chaim in Detroit. Say hello, Asher.
Hey, hi, everybody.
Asher is also the JCRC director at the Jewish Federation of Greater Ann Arbor, and he recently returned from a mission to Damascus with his wife, which his wife Rachel generously let him go on. That's what he told me to say. So glad to have you here. Glad to have you back safely, Asher. Thanks for joining us. And last but most certainly not least, Rabbi Elliot Goldberg, who is a regular contributor to my Jewish learning. You've probably read some of his essays on the Daf, which he writes for us regularly. He is also an executive coach and also a regular panelist at our Siyyum. Elliot, thanks as always for being here.
Happy to be here.
Thanks, everybody. So, Elliot, I think we're going to start with you. So let us know what has been on your mind for Tractate Sanhedrin.
Okay. Well, a lot, because we've been with it a long time. And we're about to enter a phase where we'll have more frequent Siyyumim. So it's nice to see everybody together. Masachet Sanhedrin is, of course, about the court system and the justice system that the rabbis envision based on the verses of the Torah and their own analysis and thinking that we want to put into place. There are lots of other particulars related to things that happen in those courts. But in a sense, this is a practical masachet thinking about how do we make sure we have a system in place to adjudicate justice when there are issues that need to be dealt with. And like all the details come in the different chapters. But what's been on my mind as I think about the masachet as a whole is what was this endeavor all about? Why do we have this? What's the purpose? And it led me to think about of all the possible texts that we could have chosen, that I could have chosen for today, three passages that are all on page 32 that talk about a central verse in the Torah about how justice fits into our lives or our lives as a people. There's a famous verse from the Torah, Tzedek, Tzedek Tirdof. You should pursue justice, and there's a doubling of the word tzedek, justice, in the verse, which makes it stand out. And there's lots of commentary on that verse from the Torah about what that means, why the verse is doubled. But the rabbis in our Masachet gave us three interpretations that were new for me when I found them in this Masachet, and they came to mind today as we're thinking about putting Sanhedrin to bed and moving on to the next Masachet. Which are what are the themes we want to resonate? And for me, these were they. So I want to share these texts with you, and there are three of them. So here we go. So the first says, Tzedek, tzedek, tirdof, justice, justice you shall follow. One mention of justice is with regard to judgment, and one is with regard to compromise. So the Gemara says the word tzedek comes twice. That means there are two different ways that we try to have justice. One's about judgment in the courts, which is a lot about what Masachet Sanhedrin about. And the second one is about compromise, and that's what this text explains a little more. How so? What do we mean that one of the justices we should have is about compromise? They say, well, when two boats are traveling on the river and they encounter each other, if one boat attempts to pass, both of them will sink. Right? There are two boats traveling in opposite directions on a river, and it's not wide enough for them to each go at full speed, in the opposite direction, right? You can think about this in your own automobiles on narrow roads, if you have them in your place, where there's a place where you're sort of almost head on to the oncoming traffic, and you have to find a way to navigate around. And if both try to go, you're going to crash or hit, here with the boat example, you're going to hit the shoreline and you won't make it. But if one of them goes first and another one goes second, then they'll make it through. So it's a situation that requires a certain amount of compromise, and out of compromise, somehow, right, the just thing to do is to figure out a compromise, because if there's not, right, the lack of justice in this situation is when you crash head on or you get stuck on the shore and no one ends up in their destination and all of your possessions are lost. How does this happen? So the rabbis give some considerations to think about, right? If one boat is laden and the other's not laden, the one that is not laden, the needs of the one that's not laden should be overridden due to the needs of the other. Meaning, if the two boats are passing, right, one is full of a lot of stuff and one is empty, you let the one that's full go first, and the empty one, can wait. They're not carrying the same burden. Right, I think about that if you're passing someone in a stairwell, right, and you're carrying a load and they're not. The person who's not carrying the load can move to the side to let the person with the heavy load by, right? You defer to the person with the heavy load. So there's a sense of a notion that some of justice that takes place in the court system, which is a lot about what the Masechet about, is rules about finding out what happened, who's right, how do we settle a dispute between people. But there's this other sense of justice that happens right in the small moments, or those it could become tense if they explode. But right, that passing two cars in an intersection, two people on a stairwell, two boats in a narrow river, where you could each demand to go first, but somehow the thing that that is just for the whole, for the greater peace, is for someone to defer to the other. Those moments don't require judges; they don't require courts. But the rabbis here, at least in this interpretation, see that as one interpretation of justice, that we all in our own lives can make justice come into the world by just compromising and not needing to be the first one through. That's explanation number one. The other two are faster because I know the clock is running. Number two says, justice, justice you follow. That means follow the best court. Meaning, right, the rabbis talk about, right, follow Rabbi Eliezer of Lod in his generation, or Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai in his generation, right, that different courts rise to a certain level. There are courts that are known to be the best courts with the wisest judges that make the best decisions. What does it mean to pursue justice? You have to follow the judgment of those who are giving who are known for their justice and their judgment. And this notion of pursuing justice is, right, not just any opinion holds, but you want the best opinion. How that works out in practice, we don't know in the details, other than I guess certain people have certain reputations, right? In the United States where I live, pursuing justice goes to a higher and higher court. It has to do where it is in a hierarchy of courts. Here in the rabbinic system, it has to do with, right, the reputation of the court for being the strongest court, and that's who you should follow. The third example is similar to that second one, but a little different. Justice, justice shall you follow. This teaches that you should follow the sages to the academy, meaning the academy that they're in, meaning Rabbi Eliezer of Lod, you follow to Lod. Right? If you're following Eliezer as a model, you go to Lod where he is. Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai to Berur, etc. It lists Rabbi Akiva to Bnei Brak. It lists a bunch of rabbis, right, who are known for being scholars. And here the following is not about following the judgment. It's about following the actual justice, the person who gives the judgment. When you find someone who is a wise judge, you're supposed to pursue them and follow to the court and the Beit Midrash where they are, so that you can learn at their feet, right? Learn in their court, learn from their experience, and gain some of their wisdom. So you too potentially not just follow them to their court, but follow them in their footsteps and become a good judge yourself. So a few thoughts from the rabbis about how it is maybe that all of us can be part of the justice system by in those small interactions with others, being open to compromise to help move forward, by seeking out judgment from people and courts we respect, and by finding those people who are models of judgment for us and making ourselves their students. And by doing those things, we too can be part of the greater justice system.
Thanks so much, Elliot. And before we move on, I guess I'll just add one more form of justice that came to us in the form of a comment from Rob Plass. I'll just read it. Rob writes, never liked the interpretation of tzedek tzedek as justice justice when it seems the double word ought to be an emphasis. I guess that was always what I was taught, is when there's a double word in the Torah, it means like seriously. But he observes we don't interpret ish as man, but as every man. Shana is every year, not year. So tzedek tzedek should be every justice shall you pursue. So that's an interesting point, and Elliot just gave us 3 different forms of justice that we can pursue, so maybe the point is we're supposed to pursue all of them. So I like that. Thanks, Rob, for that comment. All right, we will move on now to Asher. What you got, Asher? I'm sorry, I just muted you, Asher. My bad.
Here we go.
Hey.
I'm not moving too far on, but 37a. This is the last Mishnah in the 4th chapter. And um, talking about the difference between a monetary claim and testimony and capital punishment testimony. And it does something that Sanhedrin is so powerful at. It takes something that is primitive. Let me just say that, like killing people for crimes. The truth is America goes back and forth whether we have capital punishment or not, and but pretty earthy, primitive, that you got to kill someone for a crime, that's justice potentially. And but then takes it to lofty levels of such beauty and power, and shows us how much difficulty the Talmud has with taking someone's life with capital punishment, and how serious that is. And really this Mishnah, and then there's some interesting Gemara on it, but this mission itself really just shows the equivocating, and that we're just not so happy with. We don't really take lives lightly at all. Rav Aaron Soloveitchik, he said, I don't know if he's written this, but he said that he doesn't think the Torah ever wanted us to do any capital punishment. We in Sanhedrin talks about how rare it was, but he didn't think it wanted it, or Rabbi Akiva would never let it even happen if he were in the court. So Rav Soloveitchik felt that really, even though the Torah talks about the capital punishment all the time, really didn't mean it. So 37a, yeah, and it's Kates and Ma'amin ala Eidim. It talks about how we kind of intimidate the witness so they're telling the truth. But then a few lines into that Mishnah, and it just goes into a beautiful, it says, you should know how the Yodin should lo fashot. Taking someone's life is something totally different qualitatively than money. Money, you can give the money back, it's issues, it's serious also. But dinin nefashot, but when you take someone's life, it's not just that person's life. Dam zerotav tluin bo ad sof haolam. You're taking the entire future of that person till the eternity. And by the way, it talks about how bad Cain, who killed Abel, was for that. Remember the midrash with Moshe, that when he looks, before he kills the Egyptian, he looks all different ways, and the midrash, the tradition there, says that he looked to see who would come from this person till the end. So this Mishnah contains so many beautiful, powerful ideas about the importance of the individual. It has that very famous quote, which in this Mishnah is a little interesting, and that's another struggle in Sanhedrin between laws to Jews and laws to non-Jews. It says, "Kol hamakayim nefesh achad miYisrael maleh alav hakatuv ki olam maleh." If you keep and allow to, if you destroy, I'll go with me'abed nefesh achad miYisrael. If you destroy one Jewish soul, then you're like destroying the world. So, we're gonna work on that, and the Talmud has to work on that, whether of course, it applies to any human being, but it's used here about a Jew. And then the part that I really resonates with me the most is that that God created everyone from this Adam. Adam, by the way, was a combination of Adam and Eve, a male and female. But the fascinating thing is that God, Tava kol adam b'chod moshel adam harishon, in some ways we're all equal because we're all from that first human being. But ein echad mehem domeh lechavero. No one is like anyone else. And that is just such a beautiful idea of the individual, the uniqueness of the individual. And the Gemara goes into it a little bit, but the Gemara says it in kind of a very, it's a very funny way. Why, sort of says, why are we different? And for me, the Mishnah is enough. Like, just the idea that we're all unique individuals. It's such a beautiful idea. Gemara pulls it down a few notches, and says, Rabbi Meir, the Breita, Tanya Rabbi Meir Omer. This is on 38a, towards the bottom, like 2/3 down. Bishlosh dvarim adam mishanem chavero. There are only three ways that you're different from another person: with your voice, the way you look, and uvadat, and in your mind, your thoughts. And why? Why did God make us different in our voice and in our thought and our appearance? Mishum erva. So because otherwise we've been sleeping with each other's spouses. So you're different, so they know, oh, that's my husband, or and the way people look. It's a great if you go on YouTube, there's some of these great commercials from Specsavers in England about people. If you don't have the right glasses and you can't recognize people, then who knows you're going to end up with. So this is Sanhedrin. It takes it from the loftiest idea that, folks, there's infinite value to every human life, and we're infinitely different, and that's the magic of God. Only God can take the same stamp of the first human being and DNA from there, and everyone is different, and brings it down to a very earthy level of that. Well, we just don't want people to sleep with the wrong person. And then uvadat, why should each person have a different mindset, have our own minds? I mean, because if Rashi says, because of the thieves, if everyone had the same mind and we were all connected that way, and we didn't have our own individual private thoughts, and interesting, a right to privacy, then then everyone's going to steal each other's money, because we'll know where each other's secret stash of cash is, and we'll take it. So it goes from like the most beautiful idea that we each have our own thoughts and individual thoughts, and that's why human beings are so special, and that's why losing one human being, it's like losing the world. And then it sort of devolves, I would say, to that's the way we were able to keep the world from stealing from everyone else, and knowing our passwords. We know how, 123, 1234 is not a great password. So, so this is a very relevant issue, again, on a very earthy, banal level of being able to keep our money safe. But really, it's sort of the magic of the Gemara. Again, I'm on 38a. And the magic is that it's on two levels. Really, I think life is on two levels. On the one level, it's knowing that no one's going to steal my money, and that I have a special relationship with individuals that is unique. And then it's on such a higher level that each person is infinite and infinitely valuable. And God forbid, if we think of taking a life, or if we have to take a life in war, whatever it is, realize the gravity of what you are doing. So I just love this. I hope the rabbis laughed at Rabbi Meir a little bit when he said this, because it was such a banal kind of thing, and maybe he was kibitzing a little bit. But really, that's what life is. It's sort of on the day-to-day level, and it's on the lofty level, and that for me captures a lot of Sanhedrin.
Thank you, Rabbi Lopatin, and thank you to the rabbis for giving us a way that we can protect our passwords and the privacy of our own minds. And we will move on now to teaching from Rabbanit Fruchter. Just a reminder to everyone again, the chat is open, friends. If you have questions or comments or reflections that you'd like to share about your high points or low points or medium points of Tractate Sanhedrin, please drop them in there. Dasi, take it away.
Thanks. I love a medium point. That's a good one. That's really great. Amazing. It's so wonderful to see everybody. Mazel tov on completing another, or your first Masechet, your tractate of Gemara. I'm gonna leave us with a little bit of Torah that I hope will be relevant for the Seder, actually. And it's really a perfect segue from Rabbi Lopatin. And you reminded us, Rabbi Lopatin, that like all of the sections in Sanhedrin about the sanctity of human life, they kind of gave me chills. when you read them, when you try to understand, like at one moment you're talking just very in a sterile way about the death penalty, the next moment it's the image of God. So it's a great, great reminder. I think towards the end of Masechet Sanhedrin and Perek Chelek, of course, you have all of this really fascinating stuff about who is granted entry in the world to come, but you also have some very important reflections on repentance and the sanctity of every human soul, the ability to totally transform. We got a hint at Haman's descendants learning Torah, right? All of these wicked kings repenting. You have the ability as a human being to not be destined. You start the book of Sanhedrin and you're like, okay, it's the book of criminals, right? This is what you do. You've got the bad Jews and the good Jews and everybody, but no, there's this beautiful end to Masechet Sanhedrin where we're reminded that repentance is possible, either by just making your way through the justice system or by turning to God and changing your ways. We see just a couple of hints to things that could really inspire us, I think. One little piece, I'm going to focus on 110, Daf 110, one really important piece for our Seders here. There's a warning in the story of Korach to not be what's called machazik b'machloket. There's a commandment that one must not perpetuate a dispute. And according to the Ramban, this is actually one of the 613 mitzvot, and which means sometimes I feel like the Jewish people need a reminder about this. But there's actually a violation of a halacha when we perpetuate disputes endlessly. And it's an invitation to remember that the Seder, which is done in patterns of questions and answers, is meant to flow, right? And not get stuck in a dispute. There's something really interesting and important about the human capacity to move from machloket, and that's also really inspiring. Also on Daf 110, there's a discussion about at what age a child gets admittance into the world to come. Do you remember this a few days ago, this question? And then those of us who sometimes keep our eye out or our ears open for women's health and halacha, or just different ideas of the hidden women in the Gemara, you see this question of like when a child becomes a child. And there's a debate about like, well, at what point does the soul enter the body to the point where it gets olam haba? And we're used to maybe these questions of like, okay, conception versus birth, right? Like that's the whole thing. No, this discussion was conception, birth, speaking, and then the moment they say amen, which was very cool. I loved this. If anyone can think of a moment in their lives where they heard a young child say amen, and it's like the cutest thing in the world. Amen, right? It's like, oh, they said it. And in this Gemara, there's actually this hint that this is the moment when the soul becomes ready for Gan Eden, which is really cool. Just a good reminder that different points in development that we have in our spiritual lives. And finally, and then before I finish the end of the Gemara, feel free to, nice, Rob, feel free to put comments in the chat as well. There's a beautiful note in the Mishnah about the fate of the 10 exiled tribes, a debate in the Gemara and the Mishnah about if they'll ever be returned. And then Rabbi Eliezer says, no, ma yom ma'afil umeir, af aseret hashvatim, sha'afela lahen, kach atida lahayir lahem. Just as the day darkens and then becomes light, so too the 10 exiled tribes for whom it is dark will likewise one day have light. So again, just in this last chapter of Sanhedrin, these peaks and valleys of what it means to be on a spiritual journey, both individually and we're about to be in Mitzrayim, right? These constraints of Mitzrayim as a people, right? These lows and these highs, the capacity for transformation and the capacity to change. We're going to go ahead and conclude Masechet Sanhedrin in just a moment. I just want to peek at the chat. Some interesting stuff about the heresy. That was a fascinating sugya as well. Okay, yeah, there's so much to talk about here. I hope there's something from Sanhedrin you can also bring into your Seder. There's really a lot here. So the last part of our Mishnah read, you good, Ben? Can I finish yeah, okay. So below yidbak biyadcha mu'uma minacherem. So kol azman shirashan ba'olam, charon af ba'olam. So we were talking about destroying the property of the residents of an ir anidachat, a city subverted towards idol worship. So it says, nothing of the banned property shall adhere to your hand, so that Hashem will turn back from his burning wrath. You got to get rid of everything. That's a nice chametz bonus also, right? Like this practice we have of spiritually purging, right? It's good to do it with chametz, and that's a little scarier in this context. So as long as the wicked are in the world, God's anger is in the world. Man rishayim. Who are the wicked people to whom the Mishnah refers? I thought we were talking about the idol worshippers. Now we're talking about something else. No, Amar of Yosef says it's ganave, it's thieves, people who steal property from other people. Back to Rabbi Lopatin's discussion as well. Tan Rabbanan, the rabbis taught in a brisa, Rasha ba'alo olam, when a wicked person comes into the world, Haron ba'alo olam, divine anger comes to the world. They bring with them the like anger energy. Shenamar b'vo rasha ba'gambuz v'im kalon charpas. So with the coming of a wicked person comes derision too, and with shamefulness, disgrace. Rasha avad mina olam, Tova ba'al olam. When someone who is wicked is lost from the world, good will walk into the world. Shenamar uva avod reshaim rina. When the wicked perish, there's a sense of joy. Tzaddik niftar mina olam. But on the other hand, when someone who is righteous departs from this world, ra'ah bala olam, misfortune comes to the world. There's like a space that's left that misfortune enters into. Ra'ah bala olam, misfortune, sorry, Shenamar tzaddik avad be'ein ish sam alev. The righteous person has perished and no man takes to heart. V'anshe chesed nesafin be'ein maven, and the men of kindness are gathered in without anyone understanding. Ki mipnei ra'ah nesafat tzaddik. That it is because of the evil that the righteous man is taken. Tzaddik ba'la olam. When a righteous person enters the world, tova ba'a le'olam. Good fortune comes to the world. I'm taking a deep breath because we're about to say the final few words of Sanhedrin, and I just want to see tova ba'a le'olam, more good coming into the world. It's just like a beautiful thing to keep on our tongues as we're like entering into this season. Shenamar Zayinachamenu imasenu ume itzvon yadenu, and they called his name Noach, because saying this one will bring us relief from our work and from the toil of our hands. Noach, who grew up to be one of the most righteous people of that generation. There's this idea also that he invented the plow, right, which made things a lot easier in the world. We're just talking to Ben about farming, right? But there's a sense that when Noach's promise came into the world, then there was comfort and good, and that type of relief that we all need. Hadran alach kol Yisrael sheyesh chelek. We conclude the 11th chapter of Sanhedrin. Slikala Masechet Sanhedrin. We conclude the entire tractate of Sanhedrin, only to return again right around the corner.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Dasi. All right, everybody, we made it. We will move now to the Hadran. Asher, I think you're going to take that for us. And then we'll move right into Elliot saying the final Kaddish for us. I will share that on the screen. Hang on just a second. I think there you have it. And Asher, it's all yours.
Okay, Hadran alach Masechet Sanhedrin will return to you. V'hadrach alan, return to us, please. Daitan alach Masechet Sanhedrin v'daitach alan. We're going to think about Sanhedrin, and Sanhedrin will think about us. Lo nitne sheminach Masechet Sanhedrin, we're not going to forget you. But lo nitne sheminan, don't forget us. Lo nitne sheminan, lo ba'alma hadain, lo ba'alma da'ati. Not in this world, not in the next world. Yehirat soma fanecha na Eloheinu elhavotenu. Shedehei torcha umanutenu olam hazeh. Let Torah be something central to our work in this world. V'tei manu olam haba. It will be with us for forever. Chanina, these are now names of people who gave their lives to Torah. Chanina bar Papa, Rami bar Papa, Nachman bar Papa, Chai bar Papa, Abba Mari bar Papa, Rifram bar Papa, Rachish bar Papa, Sucha bar Papa, Ada bar Papa, Daru bar Papa. Ha'arev na Adonai Eloheinu divrei Toratecha b'finu b'fiot amcha beit Yisrael. Make Torah sweet in our mouths. V'niyeh kulanu anachnu v'tzetzenu v'tzeim cha b'Yisrael kulanu yodei shmecha v'lomdei Toratecha. Let everyone be learning Torah. Me'oivayti chakmeinu mitzvotecha ki l'olam hili. Save me from my enemies and make me smarter than my enemies. Yili vi tamim v'chukecha l'man lo evosh l'olam lo eshkach b'gudecha ki v'amchi yitane baruch atah Adonai lamdeni chukecha. Amen, amen, amen. Tzalava ed. Modim anachnu lefanecha Adonai Eloheinu le'avoteinu. We are so grateful. Shesamdach l'genim yoshvei b'nei midrash, that you allowed us to be part of this great virtual Beit Midrash learning center, and not just sitting in the bar, which is not bad, but not just. Sha'anu mashkimim v'hei mashkimim. Everyone wakes up early. Not everyone, but when we do wake up early, anu mashkimim v'hei Torah. We wake up to the values of Torah. V'hei mashkimim v'hei b'teilim. Anu amelim v'hei amelim. Everyone is trying to work in this world. Hopefully we're doing the kind of work that is making an impact that makes us a better world. Other people, I don't know. Do you feel that everyone's running in this world? We are hopefully running towards the world to come, the eternal world, the I don't know who this Hema is, but the other people. Shneimar, V'ata Elohim toridem lever shachan and shed yamim rema lo yechatzu yemehem v'ani eftach bach. Yiratzon, I have this in mind. I think we still have it. Good. Yiratzon lefanecha Adonai Elohai shekashem shezartanu. Just as you helped us, the Siyyum Masechet Sanhedrin, to finish Tractate Sanhedrin, kentaz reinu la'achil masechtot v'sfarim acherim. Help us start new tractates and ulesaimam and finish them. Lilmod lamed, to learn and to teach, lishmor v'lasot, and to do. Ulakayem et kol divrei tumah toratecha ve'avav zchut kol atzayim v'amorim v'tam yacham yamod li l'zari shelo tamusha Torah mipi. May this Torah never leave mipinu, our mouths, mipi zarenu, and all those around us and who follow us. V'zera zarenu ad olam banu bit halechacha tancheotcha b'shochbacha tishmar lecha. Well, these words of Torah should protect us. V'akitzota hi tesichecha ki bir yirbu yamecha v'yosiv l'chashon chayim orech yamim b'mina v'smol osher v'chavod. Adonai oz lamo yitain. May God give strength to God's people. Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. May God bless us all with peace.
Yikadav Shemei Rabba.
Amen.
ועמד הוא עתיד להתחדתה ולחיה מתיה להעסקה יתהון לחיי עלמה ולמבנה קרתא דירושלים ושכללה החלה בגבה למעקר פולחנה נוכריה מערה לעטבה פולחנה דשמיא לעטרי וימליך קודשא בריחו במלכותי ויקרא וחייכון ויומכון וחיי דכל בית ישראל בעגלה ובזמן קריב אמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם אומר ומיה. יברך וישתבח ויפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלה שמי דקודשה. בריחו לעילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה תושחתה ונחמתה תאמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. על ישראל ועל רבנן ועל תלמידי הון ועל כל תלמידי הון ועל כל מן דעוסקים באורייתא. דברי התורה דין ודברי כל אתר ואתר, יהי להון ולכון שלום רבה, אחינה ואחיסתא, ורחמי וחיי אריכי, מזוני רוויחי, ופורקנה מקדם ועון דגשמיא ואמרו אמן. יהי שלום רבה מן שמיא וחיים טובים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ואמרו אמן.
Amen. Thank you so much, Rabbi Goldberg and Rabbi Lopatin and Rabbanit Fruchter. Thank you all for being with us today. Thanks for everyone who joined us for this Siyyum, especially to those of you who are now going to enjoy a nice meal. Enjoy your nice meal. We are already underway in Masachet Makot, friends, and it is a shorter one, so we will be gathering together next. I believe it is on the 10th of June for our next Siyyum. We hope to see you then as well. Till then, stay well, everybody. Have a Chag Sameach and a good Passover. And we'll be coming to you with the Daf Yomi email every day of the holiday, so please stay tuned. But everyone stay well. Thanks so much for being here today. We'll see you next time.
חג שמח, מזל טוב.